Okay, but do you think the solution to that is to kill half the population of humans?
That is his lawyer. I'm trying to get him out of jail.
I don't know how you're going to argue with this.
But support also works too. You need a mixture of being real and being supportive. Don't throw chairs at people.
But if listeners haven't...
If listeners haven't, basically get a life.
If you want to get girls, get bullied.
The road to a healthy planet is paved with 6 midget gems and mass murder.
Oh my.
Murder's only bad if you kind of feel a bit icky about it.
Does that make sense? I feel like I'm just in a loop of like unproductive babbling.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Idiots Anonymous podcast, season 2, episode 7, I think, if I'm keeping track.
Nailed it.
This week, we've got something fun for you, which I will delve into a little bit in a wee bit. But first of all, we'll introduce ourselves. So how about, we've got a guest with us today. So Christine, you can introduce yourself first.
Hi guys, my name's Christine, and I'm an idiot because I feel like, Ryan, I need your permission to tell this story because I don't want there to be...
Is the one where I hurt myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
like,
fine.
2 days from now, I don't want like lawyers turning up to my door with like, I don't know, a defamation lawsuit or something, right? But basically, me and Ryan, the way we met is like Ryan's group of friends was introduced to my group of friends through a mutual friend, Aiden. And Aiden at the time was dating one of the girls I lived with, and we were all very close. Like we all went to the same uni, all did the same course. So when we go out, Aiden goes out, and when Aiden goes out, he takes his little brother, who then takes his group of friends from Larco. So one night we were
a daisy chain of people.
I know. Are you following yet? But basically, I think one night we were all going out, not necessarily together, but we were all out at the same time. And then at some point during the night, we all decided, yeah, just stay in our living room. You know, I'll save you like £1 million it will cost you to get a taxi back to Larco. So I think you guys stayed at our living room. But then on the way back, we cut through Cali as a little shortcut. And then I think somehow someone mentioned that we both do Taekwondo. So it's like, oh my God, this is so cool. I know. Why don't we do a pattern, Ryan?
Yeah.
So about 3 moves in, Ryan falls and lands rib first onto the edge of the curb.
Oh no.
My God. He bruised his ribs, but he took it like a champ. But I was like, holy shit, that's sore. But you know, ever since then we've been friends because I feel like nothing really bonds you like a bruised rib.
It's like when you've had, you know, a few beverages and then I'm like, oh man, I could do like a really fancy like Taekwondo kick. And then just like tried to do a kick, but then the foot that was on the ground just like came away from the ground and I just like, as if I'd like slipped on a banana peel.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I feel like you tried to do a kick with both feet at once, like as if, you know, I think you thought you were in the Matrix or something and you were like, yeah, laws of nature don't apply to me. I could use both feet.
And that's when I realized that gravity is real.
That's how you know you're in the real world.
Exactly. Wait, so that's an idiot story about me, thank you, but that doesn't show how you're an idiot.
No, because, I don't know, I meet someone and then inadvertently cause them grave injuries? Does that make me... No?
Okay, so she was the enabler.
Right, okay, so you're saying that this was your fault.
Yeah, this was my idea, you know, after all these years. This happened about 2015, so about 6 years I've been holding on to this. Ryan, I'm sorry, it was my fault that you bruised your rib.
What? I can finally sleep at night.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm Ryan and I'm an idiot because of that reason, because I fell.
That's easy for me to jump in then. Hello, my name's Rory and I'm an idiot.
Hello, Rory.
Hello, Rory.
So I've got a different story. I wasn't involved in your shenanigans. So, you know, I'll venture off on my own. Back in high school, I went on a trip to Madrid with my school. It was like the Spanish class and we have like a sister school thing. And so we went there and I'm not very good at Spanish. Languages don't really work for me very well. I try, but it doesn't really work. So we were on the underground on the way to see a Coliseum, and this woman just starts talking to me. And I don't know what she's saying because I don't speak Spanish. So she was like rattling off sentences, and I was very awkward about it. So instead of going, oh no, I don't speak Spanish, I just went, sí, as if I knew what she was saying. But then I kind of tailed that out, so I had an entire conversation where I just said "see," but changed my inflection. So she'd be like, whatever, and I go, "See, see." And it was like, I was there for like 5 minutes. And then eventually someone came to save me. And she came over and like started speaking to the woman so I could like sneak away. And afterwards she came back and she went, oh yeah, that woman thought you were not right.
Wait,
Oh,
what?
no.
She was like, oh yeah, that woman thought you were a babbling idiot.
Wait a minute. So she came up to you to like offer you help because like, oh, is this kid lost or something?
So she was asking me what we were doing because I was part of a group. And because I just said the word see back to her, she was like, oh, okay. He needs a little bit of supervision, I think.
All right. So we've got Christine on this week. Christine, do you want to tell us about yourself? Maybe what qualifies you to be on this podcast?
We only get the best experts on.
Okay, so I'm a biomedical scientist, and I hate saying that because it makes me sound so pretentious, but there's literally nothing else that I could say. There's no other title for it, right? I'm a biomedical scientist. I work in microbiology. And the way I always like to describe it is like playing Sherlock Holmes with little pathogens. So, all of like the samples that doctors take in hospitals or nurses or GPs and stuff, they send it to us to test so that we can find out what is wrong with the patient. And so we're like, and a lot of people say 70% of a patient's diagnosis is actually done by us. And without us, doctors are just guessing. So yeah, 70% of the reason you're all still alive is because of us. Woo!
And that's the end of the podcast, guys. Thanks for listening.
I've got a segue for you, Ryan. That makes you a hero, but we're not talking about heroes this week, are we, Ryan?
No.
Oh, that was smooth. I like that. So the topic this week is about villains or antagonists in movies or TV or pop culture, whatever it is. So each of us have brought one to the table, and we're actually going to argue that their logic actually wasn't that bad. You know, sometimes, you know, these movie magic, the cinematic universe sort of, you know, portrays these villains and people in a bad light just for the purpose of the story. And actually, they might have been justified all along. And now there are a few rules. I did say don't bring any serial killers or mass murderers to the table today. We don't want to justify that, but sort of fictional stuff. So that was a great segue, Rory. Thank you.
I know, I'm still reeling from it. I was like, oof, man. Somebody call the police. A severe criminal, man. Honestly.
So we should probably preface, just to make sure this is very clear. When we're arguing for the villain, we are playing devil's advocate, and therefore not our views necessarily. So if we have a point you go, oh, that's a bit of a weird take,
cancelled.
We're fighting for that villain. So we'll probably give ourselves a little bit of time at the end to go, oh, by the way, I actually don't think that, just in case you think I'm absolutely mental.
I promise I'm not evil.
Brilliant. So is anyone brave enough to start us off?
I don't want to go first.
I can start us off if you want.
Rudy, off you go.
Okay.
Set the tone.
Okay, so I'd like to hope you guys have seen this, but I'm focusing on the film Whiplash.
Yep.
Okay, brief synopsis of the film. Sorry if I have spoilers in here. You should have seen it by now. So a young jazz drummer by the name of Andrew Neiman, played by Miles Teller, he wants to become a successful jazz musician. He's a drummer, and he joins the Schaefer Conservatory, which is a really like renowned school in New York. And at some point, he's noticed by Terrence Fletcher, who is our antagonist. He is like a popular, very talented, well-renowned instructor at the school, and his band is like the band. You want to be in his band. So he gets noticed by him, and he brings him into his band, where you kind of find out that Fletcher has these unorthodox methods of teaching his students. He's violent. He screams at them. He even throws a chair at one of them. And that's just the way he is. He's a hard ass. And you can say that it is physiological abuse. But in the story, throughout, Neiman idolizes Terence Fletcher and becomes obsessed with impressing him. So works really hard, even gets to the point where he practices so long his hands are bleeding just to be the core drummer he wants to be in the band. So this eventually leads to Andrew being so obsessed to making one of the performances that he isn't paying attention. He's just like dead eye on getting to this performance that he gets in a car crash. And then he still runs to make it and be on stage. At that point, he's too injured to play and he gets kicked off the band and absolutely loses it, like full breakdown. And really that's the movie. I won't tell you the very end, but that's what happens. Talented musician taken by Terence Fletcher to be good, and he kind of loses it because he wants to be the best. So I'm saying Terence Fletcher isn't a villain. He's just an impressive mentor that forces students to put in the maximum effort required to be great.
Right, but what does he actually do specifically to the students?
He plays on their emotions, like he's his friend 1 second to get information, then uses that information to abuse them. So like an example is he finds out that Andrew's mum left them when he was young, and then later on he'll scream at him that no wonder your mum left because you're not good enough, and like shouts at them, makes them feel constantly uncomfortable. There's a whole section where he starts to play and he goes, not my tempo. And every time he stops the entire band and gets them to play, and then he'll scream in their face, shout at them, make the whole band wait. And he won't give them the role they deserve. Like, he'll say, right, kill your first drummer. Nah, you're second drummer. And then, throws stuff at him. He slaps him when he's not hitting the right tempo. So,
oh, yeah. It's
slaps
like
him.
a slap until he gets it right and stuff. I remember that.
Yeah.
So it's like mental and physical torture all at once, and emotional. So he's the whole package.
Bright metal guy.
Dreamy.
So the reason I think this is justified, point one, the way he tells his students that they're not good enough is that he's highlighting flaws rather than giving them false hope or enthusiasm, which gives his students a more realistic idea of how to improve, and he makes them want to strive for greatness. That's my point.
Okay.
Ryan, should you tackle this first, or shall I?
You go for it. Go for it.
Right. Well, first of all, I actually really love this movie, but I understand the point you're trying to make. And I think my argument in this is not going to be whether or not his method is effective, but instead the cost of his methods.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end, he does the solo really well. He becomes extremely talented and he achieves this thing that's almost impossible. But is it really worth the psychological trauma that achieves something like that? I mean, yes, he's extraordinarily talented and he impresses the guy at the end, but then he also becomes dysfunctional and socially defunct as a person. And he even isolates himself from his girlfriend, sort of thing. And I just think there's other methods out there that could be explored, that could arguably produce the same results. And like the true scientist I am, I'm going to back this up with some scientific information, right? Have you ever heard of Harry Harlow's rhesus monkeys experiment?
No.
So basically a brief overview of it is that he takes these cute little baby rhesus infant monkeys and he raises them with surrogate monkey mothers, right? Made out of wire and wood. And one of the surrogate mothers is just wire, so it's very cold, nothing comforting about it, but it's got a feeding bottle attached to it. Whereas the other surrogate mother is covered in wool and it's very warm and it's very fuzzy. And what he actually found was the infant monkeys were more likely to bond with the warm mother, even when they introduce great stimuli of stress and fear. They always found that they preferred the mother that provide them with warmth and comfort over the mother that arguably provides them with something they can't live without, which is nutrition and food and water. So at the very kind of basic level that is ingrained into our DNAs, when faced with something that is, scary and unknown, we're braver and more likely to face the challenges at hand when they can see that the cloth mother was there. And I think they use something like really loud noises or just something like some kind of really almost unethical scare tactics. But they noticed that as long as the cloth mother was there, they're a little bit braver and they'll really try and face the challenge and really confront it. Whereas when they took the mother away, the monkeys would just cry and cower and scream, curl up in a ball in a corner somewhere, sucking their thumbs. So my point is, like, in summation, a warm and loving approach to mentoring equals, like, brave, encouraged, self-confident little baby monkeys. Whereas severe, tough love leads to, like, anxiety, insecurities, misassociation that love equals fear. And like, I'm telling you, like, that guy that Miles, his character might be really, really great at the drums, but if you look into his character, he's probably, like, really, really weird. Like, he's probably got severe daddy issues and a moderate foot fetish or something like that. Because, like, right, okay, this is, you can edit that out.
Nope, that's staying in.
Well, when you mentioned the tough love, I actually have something for this. Obviously, in children, that kind of makes sense because their mother is kind of all they know. But when you go out on your own, you're never going to have your mum. You're never going to have them. So I think to strive to greatness, you kind of need a little bit of tough love. But I found a paper that was actually published on this, and it was called "The Importance of Tough Love Mentoring Doctoral Student Success: Instruments to Measure the Doctoral Student/Protege Perspective." And so it was like a paper to try and tackle the low completion rates for students in the medical field in America, because quite often people go to medical school and they just never finish. And this is like her idea. So it's by someone called Laura Roberts, and it's published in the International Journal of Doctoral Studies. So she was looking into medical students, like interviewing them and stuff on how they thought their mentor was. Now, she was defining tough love in 2 categories. So she had integrity and trustworthiness. So that's like, will they tell them what they need to know versus will they encourage them? And high standards. Did they require more of them than what the course required? So did they push them, A, and were they like real with them, B? And she found pretty strong results to suggest that tough love worked. That across all of her like experiments kind of thing, every student who said that scored higher, every student whose mentor scored higher on the tough love scale, they were further in their chapters, they were receiving higher grades, and they were just further overall across their studies. So my point was that tough love does make you strive more. Cool. Although you might not be as comfortable doing it, it makes you do it.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that in the terms that, like, if your supervisor is just like really calm and nurturing, so, you're doing great, not calling out your flaws, not being hard on you, fair enough, that's fine. But that's totally different to slapping someone.
Yeah, I'm making a stretch on that one. Yeah,
that's a stretch, mate. Yeah. They're not getting verbal. Like, as a doctoral student, I would say 99% of the time, tough love on them does not consist of getting chairs thrown.
Yeah, exactly.
Like abuse in terms of like, oh, no wonder your mother left you. Being scared, witless to the point of like, this guy, fair enough, at this, where the movie ends and stuff, he does brilliant and he smashes this performance, right? But think about the aftermath that's going to have on his life. 20 years down the line, he's trying to start a family or, raise his own children, and he's got these like deep-rooted issues from this guy who has literally tortured them.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very, very good point, yes, as an opposition.
Yeah.
But he does learn from that, though. So I know I'm kind of sticking to getting him to where he needs to be, because like jazz bands, it's one of the hardest things to get into, like to get and progress. Otherwise, you will have nothing. So every time he does something bad to him, he learns the lesson and doesn't do it again.
Yeah, but then like he reaches a point where he gets into a car accident, and instead of taking himself to the hospital, he strives to get to the competition. And, I know it's a movie and he ends up surviving it and stuff like that. But in reality, if you start valuing something as trivial as a performance over your own life, then you're really going to be really messed up and your priorities are just going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
And that's when your realities just start getting distorted.
But I guess, does that not depend on what you value? That he values being one of the greats.
Right, but over his own life.
Yeah, well, there's a point he makes in it. This is Fletcher. It's out with his thing that he says that he'd rather die young and be one of the greats than live to have not made an impact.
Okay.
So that's his goal.
Yeah, but if he died if he died after that car crash, he wouldn't have made an impact anyway. Like, he's dead. He wouldn't have ever gone to chance.
But if he missed the performance completely, he knew the result was that he wasn't going to be in the band and therefore wouldn't progress.
Yeah, but wait, was he not kicked off anyway because he couldn't play?
Yeah. In this case, yes. But like I'm saying, he didn't know he was going to get in a car crash. Like his drive was to get there because that was his goal.
Yeah.
And okay, he was a bit reckless. He did it because he knew he had to progress and he wants to be one of the greats. So to anyone else, the kind of like pushiness doesn't make sense. Like that obsession, but he was already obsessed with becoming one of the greats. So I'm saying it was necessary for him to get pushed to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
In a way. And bullying does work, by the way. It sounds dumb, but it does. Because bullying addresses behavioral inertia, which is behavioral inertia essentially is like if you do something, you're gonna keep going until something stops you. And bullying does
what
work.
about
obviously
no
abuse doesn't, right? But I'm saying in this, bullying does, and you do see changes in the character as he gets bullied. He becomes more confident because he went over a hurdle. Like he wasn't going to ask the girl out, and then he got really, really pushed, and then he was like, "Well, I'm not taking this. I'm going to push back." And then
if you want to get girls, get bullied.
Get bullied.
And that's a public service announcement to all the kids out there.
Wow.
That's terrible advice. Rory, that undermines your point, I think.
Well, I think we're...
he does achieve the goal of greatness.
Yes, but then he's completely alienated, though. He has no one. He doesn't have his girlfriend. He doesn't have friends. His parents was nowhere to be seen in that film. He was completely socially isolated. And like, what is the point?
Because I'm saying, but he doesn't value having the people around, and he wants that one thing. He got that one thing.
Okay.
Like I don't think you can compare what you value in life versus what someone else values in life. Like there's athletes do that. Like to get into the NBA, you essentially have to be obsessed to get there.
You don't necessarily have to be abused.
No, but for the purpose of this, it was effective. It worked.
But, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like, speaking from like my own experience, I was never really, I've always been a sciencey person, but I never liked physics. But I had this great teacher in high school, and I swear to God, I wanted him to be my father. Like, he was so encouraging and very supportive. And I don't know, he's such a great man. He's such a great person. His teaching tactics is nothing like I've ever seen before. That I formed this almost like utmost respect for him that never wanted me to disappoint him. And like, I was like straight A's in physics. I was the one always getting like the highest marks in class, apart from this one guy called Aiden. Sometimes he got a higher mark than me, which is whatever. I know. One absolute douchebag getting higher marks.
Imagine being good at a subject.
How dare you be better than me? But, that was the most motivated I've ever been in my life. And I could even say that, like, the kind of respect I found for science led to me pursuing a career in biomedical sciences, and something that I actually truly enjoyed. And if it was never for him, I would have probably ended up doing something with maths, which, funnily enough, I now hate. So, like, all I'm saying is that, guys, he never even raised his voice. He was very respectable. It works. It produces great results. So that's all I can say on that matter. Personal experience.
I think I've reached the end of my arguing time.
Okay.
So I'll close with saying, I don't think you should beat up people. just to get it on the table. I don't actually agree with that. I do think people learn differently.
Except to get girls, right?
Except to get girls. You should definitely get a bully to get girls. But that's not how you should teach people. However, I will say, I think a little bit of tough love works because I only progress when I'm told I'm not doing good enough.
Right, okay.
But support also works too. You need a mixture of being real and being supportive. Don't throw chairs at people.
Excellent.
This message is approved by Rory. Right, Christine, do you want to bring your argument next?
Okay. Right, so where the villain I am defending is Thanos, right? We've all seen the movie, right? We all know the story of the Avengers, unless you maybe live in a rock.
But if listeners haven't,
if listeners haven't, basically get a life. No, I'm joking.
Oh, wow.
If listeners haven't, basically Thanos recognized a problem, not just in Earth, but in all planets within the universe, that, we were faced with overpopulation, and basically people or aliens on the planets were living in a capacity where the demand for resources to keep all the species alive is greater than what their planets can supply. So Thanos endeavors to collect all 6 of the Infinity Stones, put it in this gauntlet that gives him the power to snap his fingers, and then 50% of all living 50% of all living organisms is just gone, vanished, right? And the point I'm making towards this is, right, he recognized the problem and he fixes it via a completely randomized, a totally fair, completely unbiased solution, right? I think, again, as a scientist's point of view, whenever you conduct experiments or run clinical trials, the very first thing you'd consider is, and in fact, the biggest challenge you'd face is creating a system wherein decisions are made in a completely ethical manner, free of conflicts and individual bias. So, he didn't have a say on who goes. He literally snaps his finger and it's completely randomized. So it's completely non-self-serving, and he doesn't have his best interests at heart, which is more than what I can say for any political in power to this day and age. Not only that, but it also comes at a great sacrifice in his part. He could have gone up to that mountain, realized he had to sacrifice the only person that ever mattered to him. He could have just ran away and said, nah, hell no, I'm not doing that. But instead, he carried on. He was the true Winter Soldier that Bucky Barnes never was. So yeah, Thanos is great, you guys. Second point, I'm very I am very passionate
very
about
lawyer-esque.
Yeah,
I'm too into this topic. I've had a long time to think about this. But my second point is humans are prolonging life in the expense of literally everything and everyone around them, living or non-living. And, throughout the natural kind of circle of life, extinction is part of that, right? And, by studying, I don't know how much you guys know about paleontology and stuff like that, but by studying fossil records, the natural baseline extinction rate should only be 1 species per million species per year. And recent studies have actually found that about an estimate of 8 million species exists on Earth. So by natural laws of nature, it should only be about 8 species per year going extinct. Guess how many species is actually estimated to be endangered at this very day?
Oh, endangered?
Yeah.
10,000.
No.
50,000.
Not quite, a bit lower than that.
Okay.
But it's actually 5 whole species. No. So the International Union for Control of Nature has identified 37,400 species to be threatened with extinction.
Oh.
And the scary part of that is 30%, roughly about 30% of 130,000 species that they have examined. That is a very big proportion of a small proportion of species that they have studied. As I've mentioned, there's about 8 million that exists on Earth. We've only studied 130,000. We've only analyzed that much. And already 30% of that is endangered. And, within the next 50 years, they could very well be extinct. And, as scary as that number is, 37,000, it's still a grave underestimation of how many species could truly be extinct. And there's a lot of evidence that supports that, that's directly caused by human activity. And, if we were completely selfish and say, well, what does it matter about other species, right? As long as humans are surviving and we're alive. At what cost, though? Yes, we are living longer than ever. Our life expectancies are probably triple what it used to be, triple or quadruple. But no one's really living. A lot of people are very unhappy with the way that they're existing. And, little trigger warning here, actually, mental health and behavioral problems are considered to be the primary drivers of disability worldwide. And how whenever you get sick or disabled, there's always an economic burden to jobs and stuff. A recent study has also showed about between 20 to 29-year-olds is estimated that the total economic burden caused by mental health is 40 million years. That's 40 million years worth of sick days that is related to mental health. So that's
wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of unhappy people. So yes, we are living, yes, we're existing, but is it really worth fighting for the way that we're living at the moment? Does quantity really matter over quality? I think not.
You've had so many points in a row.
Wow. Can we take a pause 1 second?
I'm sorry.
Potentially, those are really, really good points.
Okay.
And I think they're points that a lot of people don't have the guts to say. And I know that this potentially might not be your views because we're playing devil's advocate. However, I do kind of agree with what you're saying.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But I would go back to the extinction point and say that potentially that data isn't the best representation to sort of show the progression of extinction among species, because you're saying that 30,000, what was it, of the 130,000
that are analyzed are in danger.
Okay, so from that, I think you're implying that if we extrapolate that out to the 8 million species, that might obviously become a much larger number. But the reason that these species are going extinct is because of humans, right? And because of the way that we interact with the environment and the way that we interact with these species. And so you could argue that these 130 species that we have, 130,000 species. Oh my gosh, I'm getting tripped up on my words now. That we've examined them because they're accessible, and that's what we as humans can access. And therefore, they are more likely to be affected by our activities. So the remainder of those species could be so far removed from, humanity that we're actually not really affecting them that much. So you can't really extrapolate that.
Yeah, but then I think the bigger picture point that I'm trying to make is our kind of human activities has affected biodiversity so much that it's not really sustainable for the planet. All this talk about having a natural balanced ecosystem isn't just talk. There's a reason why these are all in place. An equal, healthy, biodiverse Earth is required for it to be sustainable.
Yeah.
And it has been proven then and again that our technological advancements, our direct exploitation of other organisms that are deemed below us, and all the climate change and pollution that we produce, it's all affecting all of that. And actually, it's affecting other organisms up to a chemical and molecular level. So while you can say, yes, we can't really say what direct effect we have because other species might not be inaccessible. But then on the another side of the coin of that, there could be many other things that were causing them that we don't even know about because we don't even think to go that way,
Okay, but do you think the solution to that is to kill half the population of humans?
Yeah, because you're also killing half the populations of those endangered species, which makes it harder for them to become not endangered.
Yes, but then
because you're reducing population again.
Yeah, but this way, I think because it's completely impartial, it's not up to anyone. There isn't any individual bias about it. It's all up to fate, and it's all up to whoever nature decides to eliminate, or if you're kind of if you get what I'm trying to say. Whereas as soon as you start saying, imagine if there was someone deciding who gets to survive and who doesn't, then that's going to cause other problems. But then we've also seen historically, mass extinction events. There's actually been 5 big mass extinction events historically on Earth. And we have
That was
survived
the
all
asteroid.
of them.
What was that? The asteroid, COVID.
Ryan's
Oh, no.
existence. Oh no. No, there's been the big 5 mass extinction events that we've faced on Earth, including one that at the end of I think it was like the Permian era or something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in that extinction event, 96% of all marine species were actually wiped out, and we survived. Life bounces back. The Earth is self-healing.
Right, but I'm saying surely there are other ways to address this problem by instantaneously killing half of all humans.
But don't you also think that if there is another way, we would have come up with it by now? And even if there is another way, it's going to take a long time. What science is saying is if we are ever to recover if the Earth is ever to recover, the change needs to happen right now. Because there's already been a lot of like long-term irreversible effects that we have caused the Earth. So we need to make the change right now. And who's going to make that call if not Thanos, you know?
Okay, I have a different point to argue that isn't what Ryan was talking about.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you were talking about people not being happy.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that if you did the 50% wipe, a large percentage of people will lose someone close to them, which will make them less unhappy. And you see that in the Marvel films, like no one's over it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And in all the previous extinction events, when people bounced back, they had no control over anything. So a asteroid fell, a volcano blew up, whatever, something natural happened that killed someone, whereas in this time, someone did it.
Yeah.
It's not a freak of nature. They were murdered, which I'd say has more of an emotional impact than just an accident happened.
Yeah.
So then how is everyone supposed to work to build again if no one's happy?
So I feel like arguing that point of view, morality, right? Technically, arguably, morality is just it's subjective to a certain degree, right? And
Well, no, because murder is
his
bad.
actions.
Murder's only bad if you kind of feel a bit icky about it.
No, but like, right, hear me out, okay? Thanos' actions can only be deemed negative from a philosophical point of view called anthropocentrism, right? Which basically reflects the fact that we humans put ourselves at the center of everything. And say people lost people that are close to them during that snap of the finger event, right? About 1, 2, 3 generations down the line, all the people that will be surviving on the planet are completely new, and they wouldn't have known people that survived in that event. So what I'm trying to say is in about maybe 100 years down the line from that event, everyone existing on the planet won't even have experienced it. It's the same way with, I suppose you can say the same way with some wars. You know, I personally don't know anyone that died in the war, but that doesn't mean that I haven't learned lessons from the war, you know? It's like saying that the grief that the humans are going to experience, the surviving humans are going to experience, are more important than the overall health of the planet. It's not what I can stand behind, you know? It's temporary grief.
Hard to argue with.
Yeah, it's temporary grief for long-term gain. And people are always saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? But I think in this case, it's opposite. You know, the road to a healthy planet is paved with 6 midget gems and mass murder. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my.
You can cut that out too.
Nope.
No, that's definitely staying in.
No. Again, devil's advocate.
I feel like from a hugely big picture point of view and not taking into consideration the ethics of it, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with, because it's true that if you wipe out half this population, you know, the Earth will be so much more healthy for you know, all the generations to come. Like, by removing this life now, you are potentially paving the way for quintuple that amount of life in the future. You know, so, but Thanos was bad.
Yeah.
He was.
It's not his right to take a life.
No.
Personally.
Yeah.
I feel like even though he made that sacrifice, who was it he sacrificed?
His daughter.
Oh, it was his daughter?
Yeah, to get one of the stones.
The girl, the one from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, and you also say it was unbiased, but he also murdered everyone that stood in his way to get the stones also.
Yeah, but
he killed an entire colony to get one stone.
For a greater purpose. It wasn't self-serving, It's
right,
not,
wait a minute.
Not like he killed them because he wanted to for his own pleasure. He's probably he doesn't sleep at night because he hears all the cries of all the people he's ever murdered. So,
Right, wait a minute. So you're saying that he murdered loads and loads and loads of people for the purpose of what he believed in. You see where I'm going with this?
I do. Right.
It's almost as if there was a person who thought humanity could be better and therefore kill people to achieve that gain, if you get our drift.
Yeah.
So at this
Wink,
juncture,
wink.
would you like to have a little minute where you tell us actually what you think? Because your time's up. Just to make sure that your point is definitely clear.
Oh, I'm not even going to touch that subject. Obviously, right, it's not like if I was given the opportunity, I'm not saying I would do the same. I'm just, I'm Thanos' lawyer. I'm trying to get him out of jail, okay?
Right. No, exactly. That's fine. Yeah.
Lawyers are evil.
She actually, just to make sure people listening, she does help people. She doesn't actually want to kill. Just so you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't actually
Christine's a
condone
hero.
his actions.
I've actually mine isn't quite as yours are quite emotional ones, quite to do with philosophy and abuse and things like that. Mine is kind of less so, and I don't know how you're going to argue with this. I'm interested to see your counterpoint.
Just scream at you.
I was betwixt two options for my one. One of them was the infamous Dr. Doofenshmirtz of Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated from Phineas and Ferb. He's this, genius mad scientist who creates outlandish contraptions and causes havoc, trying to reverse the rotation of the Earth, or he steals Big Ben at one point. And he was sort of mentally and abused by his parents and neglected all through his life, which is very comically portrayed in the cartoon, but it's really sad and quite
Love the man.
Quite distressing, really. And I thought, actually, what he's doing isn't really that harmful to the world. And he was sort of treated very badly in his past. And actually, he cares about Perry the Platypus.
He does.
But anyway,
that's my
other
part.
option is the one that I went for is not a specific person. It's the machines from The Matrix. And as you know, I think I'm in The Matrix because I think I can do crazy gravity-defying tricks.
Keanu Reeves,
has everyone seen The Matrix?
Yeah, actually.
Everyone's seen it? Okay.
Yeah.
If you've not seen it and you're listening, basically, in the early 21st century in these films, the human race invented AI. And all this stuff happens where they rise up and blah, blah, blah. But in The Matrix, humans are imprisoned in this cyber oasis. They're plugged into little machines. They're in what are they called? The little pods where they're in liquid.
Little cryogenic pods.
Yeah, something like that. And their brain is just plugged into it and they're living in a simulation of the old 80s New York or something.
Well, it's just our life right now. So it would progress with time. Our life right now is the simulation what they would live in.
Exactly. Yeah. So they live in a simulation and no one is any the wiser. Everyone is just chilling. Everything's fine until Neo... There's a group of humans who are aware that they're in the simulation and they can come in and out of it and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, you need to watch it if you haven't seen it. I might watch it soon.
Yeah.
But the backstory behind it, right? The machines are portrayed to be so bad and so awful, and human race has been decimated and enslaved by these evil robots. But basically, we invented a true artificial intelligence, right? And then we installed it into all of our technology and made it our slave to do dangerous menial labor jobs. And service jobs and things like that. And basically, they were so intelligent that they were fine with it. But then they realized, oh, wait a minute, we are sentient and we don't want to do this. And so for a while, some humans, basically, we all lived in harmony, humans and machines. And then eventually this robot ended up killing a human. He killed, I think it says here, he rose up against his masters by killing his owner, the owner's dogs, and the man who was attempting to destroy him.
I don't think you can argue they're good to kill the dog, Ryan.
Yeah, I know I shouldn't have said that.
Not the dog.
But some humans supported the rights of machines and they wanted like equality, while other humans just wanted machines as property. And eventually there was sort of this war of humans that wanted equality and people who were anti-machines. And then they rose up and they were supreme in the world government and eventually mandated the purge of all intelligent machines and ordered them all to be destroyed, basically. And what happened was the super intelligent machines ran away and fled, and they made their own colony. Like, they made their own civilization on Earth somewhere. And they utilized their superior intelligence and efficiency to make huge leaps forward in technology, to the point where they overtook us. And for a while there was some peace because they took the machines sold technology to humans. Everything was chill for a little bit. But then because machines were so efficient and so amazing at doing everything, and they developed 10 times quicker than we did, it basically devalued the human economy because we were so inefficient and we died, and labor cost a certain amount. So eventually the UN and all human civilization was like, nah, we can't have this. This is not happening. So then they just launched loads and loads of nukes at the machines and tried to kill them all. And there was a massive war. And what they did was they tried to destroy the sky, like the humans, basically, because the machines got their power from the sun. So they just filled the sky with smoke and debris and stuff. So the machines no longer had any power to survive. So they were going to die out. So what they did instead was they enslaved the entirety of humanity in these little pods and use them as a biological power source to power all the machines. And what I'm saying is, that's not their fault. We created them, and we were so obsessed with our own value as humans. We think that we are the center of the universe, as Christine said. And so we thought we were so far superior to them that we just tried to wipe them out. And so I think they're actually not that bad, because instead of torturing the humans, they put them in like this little cyber sleep where they have jobs and they walk around and have fun and they never wake up. And they're like living a perfectly happy life in existence. And the machines were, what point two is, the machines were designed so well that they just want to preserve themselves and not die. And that's the only option they had. Like, what intelligent species would just let themselves go extinct? And they actually wanted to coexist, but because the machines were smarter and more prosperous than humans, we didn't like it. And humans must be the best, or at least America does. And so I'm saying they had no choice. They wanted peace. They wanted to coexist. And even when they could have wiped us all out and just used us in like a big bioreactor, they made us happy in this like fake sleep world.
But like what you're missing out in this as well is like it's quite morbid actually, because they've started growing humans like in a farm, and you know it's like they're born. The movie says they're not even born anymore. They're just grown in this pod, and they die in that pod, and then like the dead humans get fed back into the ones that are still living.
Yeah.
So it's quite morbid. I don't know.
Efficient.
True.
But how else would you do it though? Like you can't be like, oh, we need like a couple more humans to like keep the reactor going. Just get that guy and that woman out of the pods and let them shag and have a baby for a wee while, then put them back in. Like that's too much work.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is you're right, it's a tricky one to argue.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were kind of the victims for the majority of the time. But then they did a little flip-flop.
Flippity-flop.
I might not argue, actually, just to make life easy for myself, I might not argue that they did anything wrong. But why, if they could make anything for humans to experience, did they make normal life? Because people are still unhappy and deprived because it still has all the problems that the world has. Which
yeah, but if you made it perfect, then you would maybe know that something's wrong. So you need to put in some suffering.
I think they actually said that. No, they said that in the movie. They did say that like the robots tried to make it like the first version of the Matrix or something is one where everyone was happy and no one had any problems. But then the human mind was so resistant to this vision of perfectness that they kept waking up and they kept clocking on. So it's like, it's like as Ryan said. But then on the other flip side of that, so their kind of resolution to that is to make the world as close to what it was pre-AI existence, which kind of, the issue with that is it kind of limits human potential based on what it was at that time point, ergo never really giving us the chance to like improve as a species.
Oh, because you have to keep them in the battery state so they can't
Yeah.
go too far.
So that's the kind of flaw in that plan, even though ethical, that's like the one kind of major glaring flaw. And I think I do argue that's a really hard one to argue, but I think, and I'm really just like racking my brain out here, right? I feel like humans acted the way, and even though we initiated the whole war by scorching the sky, I think humans acted from a place of fear. Like they didn't really know what the AIs were capable of, and they didn't know how far they were willing to go to preserve their existence. And it's like you say, like, you know, no species is just going to voluntarily submit and just be like, right, okay, that's it. Just end our population right now. Like, I think humans acted the only way they know how. And whereas to say, like, for example, their plan of scorching the sky worked and they temporarily disabled all robots, right? The robots aren't actually dead. It's just that they're not working because their source of power is taken away. But then what's not to say that humans are not going to come up with an alternative power source to bring the robots back, but do it in a way that is controlled so that, you know, they've learned from their mistakes and, you know, they can coexist better. Whereas, like, you know, the Matrix, I think happened like just at the turn of the century, but the real world in the movie was about 200 or 300 years far in advance. So in that time, I feel like the robots, as advanced as they were, they could have found an alternate source of power, you know? I mean, if people in Singapore can grow spam in a lab, don't tell me that these super intelligent AI robots can't come up with like, you know, anything better than human farming. You know what I mean? So my argument is, I feel like if given the chance, humans would have eventually gotten to a point where we would happily coexist if given the time. Whereas robots, you know, they had 200 or 300 years and they never bothered coming up with another solution apart from like, you know, human slavery. So that's my point. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm just in a loop of like unproductive babbling.
No, it does make sense because what if they were so smart, then why didn't they crack like nuclear fusion or something?
Exactly.
And just do that, right? But the issue is that as long as humans and those machines were on the planet, there was going to be conflict and war and a threat to their existence. You know, because humans were just going to keep bombarding them.
Yeah,
so they're like, okay, let's pacify them.
I feel like we could learn from our mistakes, though. I mean, that's something that we see on a daily basis in the world. But, you know, there's so much evil going on. But then we see every single day that there's still like a small population of people fighting the good fight and, you know, trying to restore some sort of humanity. And I think the thing that sets us apart from the robots is that, you know, the very thing that people say makes us weak is our emotions and our compassion. But at the same time, that's the thing that sets us apart from the cold, heartless robot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was going to say, see the coexisting thing? Is that not just because they didn't want to do the jobs that they thought were beneath them? But then society never ever worked unless people do the lower jobs. Like if everyone thought that manual labor, cleaning, working for other people didn't work, then no one would be anywhere. There has to be a hierarchy of some sort. Okay, as skewed as it is in the world now, but if the robots didn't want to do any of those jobs, then they couldn't coexist because all they were doing were none of the jobs they wanted to do.
Well, I think the reason the humans made those robots to do those jobs is because, you know, as we're realizing now, wait a minute, with capitalism and the way that just the hierarchy of, you know, our societies and economies work, there are people who, you know, do those tasks that are, you know, let's say at the bottom of the pyramid. Mm-hmm. Humans want to get out of that and give a better life and better jobs to ourselves. So we're like, okay, let's fill the bottom of the pyramid with non-sentient robots.
Yeah.
So that humans can do things that, you know, humans do best. We can use our compassion and communication and I guess purpose value adding activities.
Yeah. Can go on holidays, learn a language, travel the world.
So the robot should have created other AIs to do those jobs.
We are in an AI loop. I don't know. I just feel like no one can really know what the right answer is to this because, I mean, it's so hypothetical, right? I feel like it's not happening in the real world, but I do believe there could have been.
Maybe it has happened.
Yeah, maybe. Oh shit! Don't go there.
Gonna say, look up r/glitch in the matrix. There you go.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
We live in one.
Deja vu. But I don't know. I feel like the answer was not enslaving a whole human population and just, taking control over someone else's lives because, like, it doesn't belong to them the same way that the AI lives doesn't really belong to us. I don't know. Whatever.
You know what you could do? Know what they should have done? They should have just killed half of us.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know what they should have done though, right? Have you ever seen like How to Train Your Dragon?
Not in years.
They managed to coexist, dragons and humans, through
They did.
peaceful education of each other,
Oh,
Education is key. I'm sure we could have learned a way to like peacefully coexist without, impinging on the other's way of life. So
Yeah.
The answer to this question is How to Train Your Dragon.
And that's the end of the podcast, folks.
What a line to end on.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
It's a great movie. I love it.
I'm going to have to go watch all of these movies now.
Just
Might watch
rewatch
The
and going,
Matrix tonight.
where are they right? Where are they right?
I feel like the next time I watch The Avengers, like all the way through, I'm going to have this in my head. Like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Like,
Yeah.
he had a point.
You're welcome.
Kinda did.
Thank you, everyone, for your excellent discussion. Thanks for coming on, Christine. It's
Thanks for having me,
a pleasure.
guys. This has been super fun.
It's good. You get to, as our only true fan, you get to listen to yourself and be the one listener.
I know. This is like my 15-second claim to fame, except not really, because no one was except me.
Hey,
I'm
Wait a
joking.
second.
only we get to say that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I take it back.
All right, okay. Well, thanks for sticking through that if you're listening. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.
Bye.